At 6:45 p.m., the rain hung like a curtain over the quiet cul-de-sac in suburban Atlanta, soft and persistent, the kind that settled into your bones without warning. Mariah James, 27, and worn thin by a double shift, stood behind the sprawling Blake residence with a paper plate of cold chicken and rice balanced in one hand. Her housemaid uniform clung to her skin, soaked from the unexpected drizzle, but she didn't flinch. She knelt beside the trash bins where 2 stray dogs are. Brindle, Mutt, and a skinny white terrier waited with cautious hope flickering in there. Eyes, eat slow, okay. You didn't eat yesterday, she murmured, her voice barely louder than the rain. Her fingers trembled from the chill, but she smiled when the brindle nudged its nose into her hand. Unseen, from the second-floor window above, Sienna Blake, 17, and restless, leaned on her elbows and watched. She had been scrolling aimlessly, avoiding the tension of her parents' latest silent argument, when she noticed Mariah in the backyard, bent low in the rain for 2 stray mutts. Something about it froze her. How this woman, invisible in their house, overlooked at the dinner table, still had tenderness to give. Sienna lifted her phone, framed the shot quietly. Mariah kneeling in the downpour, arms extended like an offering, dogs nosing gratefully at the plate. She hesitated, then typed the caption, "She's got nothing, yet gives everything." With a quick tap, the image joined the digital current. Out of Mariah's world and into everyone else's. Mariah James hadn't planned on spending her 20s scrubbing someone else's kitchen floor, but life, as it often did, had rewritten her plans with cruel efficiency. She came from a neighborhood in Alabama where cracked sidewalks and boarded-up storefronts told stories no one cared to hear. Her mother had worked herself into an early grave at a textile factory, and when cancer finally silenced her, Mariah was only 22 semesters into a biology degree and suddenly a mother figure to her 11-year-old brother, Isaiah. College vanished overnight, replaced by the grind of survival. Atlanta offered jobs, just enough to rent a room in a rundown complex and send Isaiah to a halfway decent school. By day, she cleaned the sprawling mansion of the Blakeser family, so steeped in wealth they didn't notice the maid unless something went wrong. By night, she waitressed at a greasy diner, the kind that never closed and smelled of burnt oil no matter how many times the floor was mopped. At the Blake residence, Mariah moved like a shadow, silent, invisible, meticulous. Evan Blake, a high-powered lawyer with a practiced smile and an ever-ringing phone, rarely acknowledged her presence. Monica Blake, his immaculate wife, made a habit of finding flaws, a missed streak on a mirror, a fingerprint on the fridge, a towel folded slightly askew. Details matter, she would hiss, her tone sharp as glass. Monica paid Mariah under the table, far below what the work was worth, and laid down rules with clipped finality. No food to be taken home, no resting during shifts, no distractions. Leftovers go in the trash, she once snapped, tossing half a tray of untouched, baked ziti into the bin. We don't feed the help, but Mariah, even with fatigue dragging at her every limb, never lost the softness that lived just beneath her ribcage. Every few days, when no one was looking, she slipped scraps and ate steak tips, rice, torn bread, to a paper plate and ducked out the back door. Behind the trash bins, the same 2 strays waited, rib bones visible, tails wagging. She spoke to them in gentle whispers, like she used to with Isaiah when he woke up crying after their mother died. Feeding those dogs was the only part of her day that felt like something good, something hers. No one knew. She made sure of that. Upstairs, Sienna Blake scrolled endlessly through curated lives on her phone, drowning in glossy perfection while her own life felt empty and brittle. Her parents barely noticed her anymore, her father glued to court cases and business trips, her mother locked in a loop of Pilates classes and passive-aggressive conversations. Sienna wore designer clothes and ate organic lunches, but felt hollow. Her smiles rarely real. That rainy evening, when she looked out the window and saw Mariah kneeling in the mud to feed to dirty strays, something shifted. The image gripped her, this quiet, soaked woman giving what little she had to creatures with even less. It didn't look like charity. It looked like love. Without thinking, Sienna snapped the photo and uploaded it. "She's got nothing, yet gives everything," she typed. It was just a fleeting moment, one she didn't expect anyone to notice. But the internet did. Within hours, the photo caught fire, shared by influencers, reposted on compassion pages, liked and commented on by thousands. Strangers called Mariah an angel, a hero, a reminder that goodness still existed. Sienna watched it all unfold from behind her screen, heart pounding, but said nothing. She didn't tell her parents. She didn't tell Mariah. The woman in the photo was still sweeping the marble foyer the next morning, unaware the world had seen her kneeling in the rain with a plate of scraps, and had called it beautiful. The photo took on a life of its own. Within days, the quiet image of a soaked housemaid kneeling in the rain with 2 stray dogs ignited the internet's attention like dry brush to flame. Over 1.2 million views and counting. News outlets picked it up. Atlanta Now, The Good Human, Report, morning shows. The hashtag surged. Hashtag Heart of Gold. Hashtag Compassion in Rain. Hashtag Invisible Angel. Commenters wrote of kindness, of dignity, of the quiet grace of people society overlooked. Everyone wanted to know, who is she? The woman in the picture. The anonymous angel with nothing to give, giving anyway. But Mariah didn't know any of it. She was too busy wiping down countertops and running late to her night shift, too far outside the digital world to notice the growing storm that had begun with one simple photo. And while the world celebrated her, the one place she remained entirely uncelebrated was the Blake household. On a grey Thursday afternoon, the drizzle returned like a soft echo of that first night. Mariah, cautious as ever, crept out back again with another plate of leftovers, just a few scraps of chicken and rice tucked into a napkin she'd hidden in her sleeve. The dogs were waiting, tails wagging, trusting her now. She knelt, whispered to them, offered the food. That's when the screen door slammed. Monica stood in the threshold, arms crossed and eyes like knives. "Are you seriously feeding strays again?" she barked, stepping out into the rain with fury mounting. Mariah started to explain, stammering, but Monica didn't want answers. "You're stealing from us," she shrieked, her voice rising over the soft patter of rain. With a single motion, she slapped the plate from Mariah's hands. It clattered to the ground, rice and meat scattering into the mud. The dogs jumped back, startled. Mariah blinked hard, lips parted, but said nothing. "This is our food. You think you can help yourself to whatever you want. I should fire you right now." Monica was breathing heavily, face flushed with fury, one hand still mid-air, as if expecting the moment to freeze in her triumph. Unbeknownst to either of them, Sienna stood behind her bedroom window, the blinds barely parted. She had watched the whole thing, every cruel second of it. Something inside her clenched. Shame, guilt, rage. The woman she had secretly made famous was being humiliated in the same backyard where that kindness was born. And it was Sienna's fault. She had done nothing to stop it. Not when Monica snapped at Mariah, not when she saw her dragging herself through 16-hour days. But now the world loved Mariah for what her family despised in her compassion, her humanity. Sienna sat at her desk, hands trembling as she reached for her phone. She reopened the post. It was still spreading hundreds of new comments by the hour. Without letting herself overthink it, she typed slowly, deliberately, and under her real account. "Her name is Mariah James. She works for my family. My mum treats her like she's disposable, but she's the most generous person I've ever met. She feeds those dogs, because no one else will. She doesn't know this photo even exists, but she deserves to be seen. She hit post before she could stop herself, before fear or loyalty to her mother could drag her back into silence. The comment soared to the top instantly, liked and shared and circled in red by people who wanted to know everything about Mariah, about the Blakes, about how someone so pure could be treated so cruelly. And as the truth finally began to ripple through the same platform that had lifted Mariah into a symbol of kindness, Sienna sat back in her chair, heart pounding, knowing there would be no taking it back. The storm that began with a single photo turned into a full-blown media frenzy within days. Local news anchors speculated breathlessly about the mystery Maid with a heart of gold. Journalists combed through social media, zooming in on the photo, tracing location tags, analyzing shadows and rooftops to figure out where it had been taken. It didn't take long before someone recognized the Blake residence, and then, inevitably, identified Mariah. A reporter from a local station reached out to the Blakes, requesting comment and a possible interview. Monica's reaction was immediate and ferocious. "They're not coming here," she hissed, pacing the kitchen like a cornered animal. "We have nothing to do with this." She shot Evan a look, expecting him to back her up, but he merely adjusted his cufflinks and kept scrolling through his phone. The corners of his mouth pulled tight. His law firm had already flagged the situation, concerned about optics, wondering aloud if it would affect client trust. Monica was livid, but not because of Mariah's sudden fame. It was the loss of control that stung. The idea that to help someone they'd always kept in the margins was suddenly the center of attention. Meanwhile, Mariah remained completely unaware. Her world was still floors and dishes, bus routes and late-night diner shifts, until one night at her second job, while she was clearing a table near the back, a woman approached her early 30s, not a regular. "Excuse me?" she said gently. "Are you the woman who feeds the dogs in that video?" Mariah blinked, confused. "What video?" The woman pulled out her phone, tapping quickly until the photo appeared. There it was, her kneeling in the rain, the dogs beside her, a plate in her hand, frozen in a moment she hadn't known was being captured. Mariah stared at it, heart pounding. Is this some kind of prank?" she asked, her voice low. Her hands went cold. Was someone watching her? Was she in trouble? "No," the woman said, surprised. "You're kind of a hero. This picture's gone viral. Millions of people have seen it. They're calling you an inspiration." Mariah's throat tightened. Fear eclipsed everything. Viral, that meant attention. Cameras, government. What if someone thought she wasn't supposed to be working here? What if this got Isaiah in trouble? Her chest clenched. "I need to go," she muttered, pushing past the woman. The buzz of the diner suddenly deafening. Back at the Blake house, things came to a boil. Monica had finally traced the source of the original upload to Sienna's phone through metadata. Cloud backups. Something Evan's it guy helped with. When she confronted her daughter, the fury was volcanic. "You did this," Monica spat, phone in hand. "You posted that damn video." Sienna stood her ground, but barely. "I told the truth. She's not the one embarrassing us. You are." The words had barely left her mouth before Monica struck her a swift, sharp slap that echoed through the hallway. Sienna's head snapped to the side, and for a moment the house held its breath. Evan stood at the end of the hall, unmoving, watching the scene unfold with that same practiced detachment he used in court. His silence was deafening. Sienna's cheek burned, but she didn't cry. She just stared at her mother, eyes full of betrayal, and walked away without another word. The next day, the tension was unbearable. Cameras had been spotted across the street. A news van idled 2 houses down. Monica, frantic and trying to reclaim authority, took it out on the easiest target. In front of the foyer, while Mariah vacuumed the entryway, she unleashed everything. Don't think just because strangers on the internet love you, that you're better than you are, she snapped. You work here. You don't get to act like some saint just because you fed a few mutts. You're nothing, Mariah. The words stung more than Mariah expected. All she had ever done was survive. She wasn't asking for praise. But now, the woman who underpaid her, who acted like she didn't exist, was furious because the world had noticed her doing something decent. Mariah straightened slowly, the vacuum still humming behind her. Her voice trembled, but it didn't waver. I may not have much, she said quietly, eyes locked with Monica's, but I have more heart than this whole house. Then she unplugged the vacuum, walked past the marble staircase, and left the Blake mansion without a single glance back. The silence in the Blake house didn't last long. After Mariah walked out, after the cameras left, after the neighbors started whispering, Sienna knew it wasn't enough. Not yet. Not until the world knew what really happened behind the ironed curtains and manicured hedges. So, late one night, from the dim glow of her bedroom, she recorded a video raw, unfiltered, her voice shaking but firm. My name is Sienna Blake, she began. You've all seen the photo of Mariah feeding those dogs in the rain. What you haven't seen is the truth behind it. Mariah worked for my family. She took care of our house while we treated her like furniture. My mum Monica Blake underpaid her, humiliated her, told her she wasn't allowed to take leftovers home. Mariah didn't just feed those dogs. She fed something I didn't even know was starving in me. Sienna paused, eyes glassy. I've lived in this house my whole life. It's full of money, but it's empty. I've never seen real love, not from my parents, not from anyone, until I saw Mariah kneel in the rain and give the last scraps of a meal to animals no one else noticed. That moment, it changed me. She hit post without overthinking it. Again, the video caught fire, bigger than before. Over 5 million views in just 2 days. Hashtag Mariah Matters trended globally. Influencers, celebrities, activists saw, reposted it, praising Sienna's bravery, but more importantly, shining a light on Mariah's quiet integrity. People demanded change, justice, accountability. They didn't just see Mariah as a symbol anymore, they saw her as a person. The consequences came quickly. Monica's coveted position on the board of a major Atlanta charity was suspended pending ethics concerns. The Blake name, once whispered with envy, now echoed in social media threads soaked with outrage. Evans' law firm, keen to salvage its pristine reputation, issued a cold press release. Mr. Blake's personal household matters do not reflect the values of our institution. Translation: they were distancing themselves fast. Meanwhile, in a tiny apartment on the other side of town, Mariah sat with her phone buzzing non-stop. She hadn't wanted any of it, the attention, the pity, the headlines. But when the call came from a local animal shelter, something shifted. We saw the videos. The woman on the other end said, "We've never seen someone show so much heart without asking for anything in return. We're looking for someone to manage community outreach, full-time benefits, a salary that respects your worth. We think you'd be amazing." Mariah didn't answer right away. She stared at the wall, the weight of years of being overlooked pressing down on her shoulders. Then she smiled, just barely. "I'd like that," she whispered, but peace was fleeting. One night, hours after sunset, there was a knock at Mariah's door. Faint, hesitant. When she opened it, Sienna stood on the other side, soaked from walking in the rain, her duffel bag hanging from one shoulder, her eyeliner smudged and her face blotchy. "I had a fight with my mum," she said hoarsely. "Worse than before. She said I ruined everything, and maybe I did. I don't know who I am anymore." She looked up, eyes pleading. "Can I stay here tonight?" Mariah didn't answer at first. She leaned against the frame, staring at the girl who had once watched her from a window like she was some curiosity. But she also saw the girl who had lifted her voice, risked everything, and called the world to witness something sacred. Slowly, quietly, Mariah stepped aside and opened the door. In the weeks that followed, Mariah's life began to shift, not with sudden glamour or wealth, but with something steadier, something she'd longed for her entire life: stability, dignity, and peace. She started her new job at the animal shelter, where the air smelled of sawdust and fur and second chances. The work was hard but meaningful. She managed community outreach, helped organize adoption events, and created food drives for strays, no longer sneaking scraps behind trash bins, but now leading with confidence. With the new salary and benefits, she moved into a modest but sunlit apartment on the edge of town, where she could open the windows without hearing sirens every night. Her younger brother, Isaiah, enrolled in his first semester of college, using a scholarship Mariah had helped him apply for late one night after her shift. Her eyes bleary but determined, he called her every few days, now excited, grateful, thriving. For the first time in years, Mariah let herself exhale. Sienna, too, began her own quiet repair. After that night on Mariah's doorstep, she stayed a few days, then kept coming back, not because she had nowhere else to go, but because she didn't want to return to who she'd been. She started volunteering at the shelter alongside Mariah, awkwardly at first, then more naturally. She found something grounding in walking the dogs, cleaning kennels, learning how to give more than she took. Slowly, the two women built a bond as employer and employee, not as a symbol and a witness, but as two people who had seen each other at their most vulnerable and stayed. They talked more, sometimes about Sienna's loneliness, sometimes about Mariah's dreams. Sometimes they didn't talk at all, just worked in quiet understanding. Back at the Blake estate, the silence grew heavier. Monica found herself surrounded by echoing rooms and cold wine. Evan had filed for separation not long after Sienna left. He cited emotional cruelty, reputational damage, and a fundamental moral incompatibility. The social circles that once flocked to Monica's curated brunches now gave her a wide berth. She watched her perfect house become a shell, her authority unravel. The control she had clung to for so long now felt like a prison. Even Sienna no longer answered her calls. One afternoon, weeks later, Mariah returned to the house where it all began. She wore a soft blue blouse and slacks, her hair pulled back neatly. She walked up the driveway, not in shame, but with the grace of someone who had reclaimed her voice. Monica opened the door herself, startled to see her. I have your final check," she murmured, holding out the envelope. She looked older now, thinner, as though the power she once wielded had hollowed her out. "Mariah, she began, but Mariah raised a gentle hand, her voice calm and steady. "You don't have to explain. I'm not here for apologies." She took the envelope, held Monica's gaze for a long moment, and said, "I hope one day you'll learn to care for something without expecting to own it." Then she turned and walked away, the sun warm on her back, the world finally unfolding ahead of her, not with permission, but on her own terms. The evening air was soft, brushed, with the hum of cicadas and the faint sound of dogs barking in the distance. Mariah and Sienna sat side by side on the worn wooden bench outside the shelter, their legs stretched out, a quiet comfort between them. The same two strays, now full-bodied, tails high, their fur glossy with health, chased each other across the lawn, pausing only to nuzzle the volunteers as they passed. They had names now, collars, families on the way. Sienna watched them for a long moment before speaking. "Why did you keep feeding them?" she asked, her voice low, even when no one saw. Mariah didn't answer right away. She leaned back, eyes on the horizon where the sun was starting to dip, gold spilling into pink. Then she turned, her smile gentle, steady. "Because kindness isn't about being seen," she said. "It's about not becoming like the people who forgot how to love." The words hung in the air, soft and final. Sienna nodded, the weight of them sinking into her chest like truth. They sat there in silence, watching as the dogs finally curled up near the fence, the sun slipping behind the trees. There was no applause, no spotlight, just the hush of evening and the quiet peace that comes from choosing to be good when no one's watching. Fade out.